Major fire in Tai Po high-rises with at least 4 killed and 7 injured. Those who escaped the fire are desperately worried about their trapped families. And Donald Trump claims he urged China to buy U.S. soybean at a quicker pace. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. At least 4 people have been killed in a number 5 alarm fire in Wang Fuk Court, a housing estate in Tai Po. 7 others are injured and an unknown number of people are missing. At least 1 firefighter was killed. Scaffolding was erected in all 8 blocks of the estate for repairs and caught fire. The flames have also burned all the way to the top of the building. David Garrett reports.
The fire spread into units on the lower floors. Thick smoke rose into the air, visible as far as Ma On Shan and Tolo Highway. At 2:51 p.m, the Fire Services Department was alerted to a blaze at Wang Chong House in Wang Fuk Court. Calls for help from trapped residents continue to pour in as the blaze quickly spread to adjacent buildings. At 3:02 p.m, the Fire Services Department upgraded the fire to alarm level 3 and at 3:34 raised it to a number 4 alarm fire with reinforcements continuously arriving. Several people were in a serious condition. Some rescued residents were unconscious and paramedics continuously performed CPR. The fire occurred at Wang Fuk Court, a subsidised housing estate with 8 blocks. Completed in the early 1980s, it was undergoing months of renovations that were nearing completion. Many residents said they were unable to contact their families. Resident Mr. Yip said the fire was fierce. He said he had earlier told his wife to return to home after the fire reached the entrance of the building. He was still trying to contact his wife. Anxious resident Mr. Ho said he could not find his wife, unable to gain access to the site. Continuous flames caused the safety netting to burn and fall onto the street. The police expanding the cordon, the authorities together with the community care team assisted residents in the evacuation. David Garrett, TVB News.
Our reporter Samantha Lee is on the ground for us in Tai Po tonight. Samantha, bring us up to speed on the latest.
The fire continues to rage on and shows no sign of abating. The blaze has spread to at least 8 blocks in the estate. And as night fell, we can clearly see flames glowing vividly with ashes falling all around. And just a few minutes ago, we can see firemen battling the blaze with drones, and we also see some injured people rescued from the scene, while some residents worriedly searching for their family members, calling out their names and hoping for a response amid uncertainty. The Fire Services Department urges nearby residents to stay indoors, close doors and windows, stay calm and avoid going to the affected area. We will stay here for more updates. For now, back to you in the studio.
And that's our Samantha Lee on the ground in Tai Po for us. Meanwhile, a fireman was killed while battling the blaze in Tai Po. Director of the Fire Services Department, Andy Yan Kin, gave a briefing to the press. Yeung said the fireman was found by his colleagues outside the lifts in Wang Chung House at around 4 p.m. His face was charred and his colleagues tried to resuscitate him using CPR. He was confirmed dead at 4:45 p.m. The deceased firefighter with the surname Ho was 37 years old and has served in the FSD for 9 years. The government has opened the Kwangfo Community Hall and the Tongcheng Street Community Hall in Tai Po as temporary shelters for residents affected by the fire. The government first arranged for the evacuated residents and nearby workers to take shelter at Church of Christ in China Fengluan Kid Memorial Secondary School. This renovation worker says he was working on the exterior wall spraying works and they have been handling that for a few months. This resident says it's heartbreaking and she wouldn't even think too much about the loss of property. She felt helpless watching her home go up in flames. Authorities later arranged coaches to transport residents to the Kwangfo Community Hall. Police and care teams were on site to assist. A central command point had been set up inside the hall to help residents contact their family members. Water, food, and essential supplies are available. A local district councillor says many missing persons cases involve elderly people. A lot of young people and residents rushed back after work to check on the situation and try to locate their elderly family members. Another temporary shelter has been set up at the Tongcheng Street Community Hall, and the government has activated the emergency service station at Alice Homey Link Nethersall Hospital for public inquiries. The Yau Ma Tei section of the central Kowloon Bypass will be open to traffic on December 21st. The government expects the $42 billion project will trim peak hour travel time between Yau Ma Tei and Kowloon Bay from 30 minutes to just 5 minutes. Samantha Lee has the details.
After 8 years of construction, the central Kowloon Bypass will soon see light at the end of the tunnel, as it is now at the final stage of works, with the last test being conducted.
On December the 21st, the Yau Ma Tei section of our new central Kowloon Bypass will open. It's a dual 3-lane, 4.7-kilometer carriageway.
The western portal of the bypass runs between Yau Ma Tei and Kai Tak, with a 3.9-kilometer tunnel in between. According to a driving simulator video by the Highways Department, drivers starting from Olympic MTR station can keep left on the West Kowloon Highway, then enter the central Kowloon Bypass while not changing lane. By the time you get to the tunnel exit, choose a lane for your destination. Drivers heading to Kai Tak and Kowloon Bay can stay left. Those taking the other lanes can head towards Kwun Tong and the cruise terminal. The authorities estimated the commute time from Yau Ma Tei and Kowloon Bay could be reduced from 30 minutes to just 5 minutes during peak hours, relieving the burden of the existing transport system. The new highway will charge $8 per trip for all vehicles. Meanwhile, the eastern portal, which links Kai Tak Interchange and Cheung Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel, is expected to be completed next year. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The government is launching a slew of special offers and free visits over the Legislative Council election weekend in a bid to encourage the public to stay in Hong Kong and vote. They include free admission to the wetland park, public swimming pools, and museums. A thank you card will be given to voters, allowing them to redeem discounts at participating retailers and eateries. With just over a week to go before the LegCo election, the government unveiled the rollout of incentives for the weekend of December 6th and 7th. They include free entry to the Wetland Park, the Science Museum, Space Museum, Art Museum, and public swimming pools. Calling the election a happy occasion, the government said it will host a variety show on December 6th at the West Kowloon Cultural District, along with an election fun day, featuring exhibitions and booth games across various districts. Several discipline services departments will open their premises for public visits. Over those 2 days, the Greener Community Scheme will offer double reward points for recycling, and at designated housing authority malls and markets, spending over the set amount will offer an extra hour of free parking. Some citizens hope opening hours, too, can be extended.
In Hong Kong, people tend to work overtime till 8 o'clock. If the facilities has extended opening hours, then we can have more opportunities to participate.
Just like the previous district council election, voters will receive a thank you card after casting their ballot. The new card designed using artificial intelligence featuring ballot box mascots. The thank you card are accepted by some merchants and restaurants for promotional discounts on election day.
Well, I would like to say thank you to many private companies and the private sector that to provide special offers to those who vote in the election. In the electoral election. I think this is to encourage more people to vote. It is also very important for the future of Hong Kong. 冇記名，冇 number。
When asked whether civil servants will be required to present the thank you card as proof, Chan says the card bears no name and has no serial number. So the government will not use the thank you card to check whether civil servants have voted, but they hope the government workers could understand the importance and cast their vote voluntarily. U.S. President Donald Trump touted relations with China as extremely strong in the wake of his phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, US President Donald Trump touted relations with China as extremely strong. This following a phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday, which Trump said was mostly about trade.
I spoke to President Xi about a lot of things, but trade and buying our farm products, and he said he agreed with me. I think he's gonna very much surprise you on the upside. I asked him, I'd like you to buy it a little faster. I'd like you to buy more, and he's more or less agreed to do that. I think we will be pleasantly surprised by the actions of President Xi.
Trump's comments come as traders with knowledge of the matter told Reuters China bought at least 10 cargoes of US soybeans worth around $300 million in contracts signed since Tuesday, a day after the presidents of both countries spoke on the phone. The reported purchases come despite US soybeans being priced higher than Brazilian supplies. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent commented on the matter. He said Chinese purchases of American soybeans are right on schedule. In an interview with CNBC, Bessent said the US and China will always be natural rivals, but the two countries' relationship is in a good place. Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador to the US, Xie Feng, delivering a keynote speech at the 2025 Kuliang Forum, said efforts should be made to promote the sound and sustained development of China-US relations. He stressed Beijing and Washington need to stand for peace and inject stability and certainty into the world. The Global Times quoted Trump as saying during the phone call that China was a big part of the Allied victory in World War II, and Washington understands how important the Taiwan issue is to Beijing. The Xi-Trump phone call took place amid increasing tensions between China and Japan, prompted by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takeji's comments regarding her stance on Taiwan. Danaral TV News.
Thousands of Chinese tourists have cancelled trips to Japan after tensions between the two countries recently escalated, when Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi suggested Japan could become militarily involved if there were a conflict in the Taiwan Strait. This tea room in Tokyo's Asakusa usually has around 3,000 Chinese tourists visiting each year, where a classroom of up to 40 students can watch and experience a traditional tea ceremony. Rie Takeda says she has been receiving cancellations from Chinese visitors who couldn't attend her classes. A volunteer tour guide said if the number of Chinese visitors dips, it would be a major blow for the people in this area. An executive economist at Nomura Research Institute said if the current level of travel advisory remains, it could cost Japan 1.8 trillion yen or $11.5 billion, knocking 0.3 percentage points off the country's already weak annual economic growth. And still ahead, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro starts his long jail term. And English cities ready to charge tourist tax. Welcome back. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told the coalition of the willing that he is ready to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump and discuss sensitive points relating to ending the four-year war with Russia. This as Russian forces staged a mass drone attack on the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia, triggering fires and injuring 12 people. Tracy Furness has more.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, US President Donald Trump expressed optimism about the prospect of Russia and Ukraine reaching a peace deal, calling the status very close.
And I think we're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having some talks with Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end. And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
You said, what are the big stakes?
We settled 8 wars. And I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones. There's a lot of hatred.
What's the next step?
They're going to keep talking. They're talking to Russia now. Steve Witkoff is going over, maybe with Jared. I'm not sure about Jared going, but he's involved in the process, smart guy, and they're going to be meeting with President Putin, I believe, next week in Moscow.
One Ukrainian official who is part of Ukraine's negotiating delegation attending talks in Geneva said there is no final version or framework for a peace plan.
I would say there is no final version of any peace framework so far. So the document that was presented to Ukraine and discussed in Geneva was significantly transformed, and it reflects a lot of things that Ukraine wanted to put there or to change or to exclude from this plan, but there is no final draft.
This is Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky speaking via video link to members of the coalition of the willing, said he is ready to meet with the US president.
And I'm ready to meet with President Trump. And there are sensitive points to discuss. We have them still. And we think that the presence of European leaders could be helpful. And let's discuss some key issues today in a closed format.
Meanwhile, constant missile and drone attacks have turned the soil surrounding Natsvergas gas facility in central Ukraine from black to a rusty red. The company's CEO said due to destruction, shelling, they have lost a large part of Ukrainian gas production, so now they are forced to import additional volumes of gas. He said the country needs 4.4 billion cubic meters of gas during the heating season. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro is starting a 27-year prison term for attempting a coup. The reaction in South America's largest country has been a mix of anger and jubilation. David Garrett reports.
The federal police headquarters in the capital of Brazil, where Jair Bolsonaro is currently incarcerated and will stay, facing 27 years behind bars for plotting a coup. The former president in a 12-metre square room since the weekend where he was taken into custody, fearing he could flee amid planned protests. Outside, small demonstrations calling for Bolsonaro to be let free. Anistia, amnesty for political prisoners, this sign says. These supporters say the charges and sentence are politically motivated and the ex-leader should not be in prison. Opponents of Bolsonaro celebrating wildly. Pro or anti-Bolsonaro taking different stances on the Supreme Court ruling, arguing outside the building where the former Brazilian president is being held. We come and stand in defence of democracy, says Keith Lima, who, with other critics, never believed they'd see Bolsonaro jailed.
They've corked champagnes, they've made their chants, and they celebrated what they think is going to be a very long prison time for the former President Bolsonaro at these federal police facilities in Brasilia.
The 70-year-old was found guilty in September of trying to change the result of the 2022 presidential runoff that he narrowly lost to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The Supreme Court dismissed claims from Bolsonaro's lawyers that their client was in poor health and should stay under house arrest, as he had been since August. The courts say he is a flight risk amid reports he'd asked Argentina's President Javier Milei and Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban for political asylum. His sons visited their father, saying he is confused and vulnerable. Our doctor left his medication separated so he does not mix them. He needs care for hiccups. We are concerned. Senator Flavio Bolsonaro left after a half-hour visit. His father's legal team told no further appeals are possible. David Garrett, TVB News.
A tourist tax is to be introduced across England, with local mayors imposing a modest charge on overnight stays. The revenue earned will be ploughed back into local transport and infrastructure. Tracy Furness has more.
Tourists visiting England will now have to dig a little deeper into their pockets as local mayors introduce a tourist levy, calling it a modest charge on visitors staying in hotels, bed and breakfasts, guest houses and holiday lets. Officials said the measures would bring cities in England in line with other tourist destinations around the world, which charge a similar levy, such as in New York, Paris and Milan. London Mayor Sadiq Khan welcomed the announcement, saying it is great news for London, adding the extra funding will directly support London's economy and help cement our reputation as a global tourism and business destination. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham said Nearly 2 million people all over the world choose to visit Greater Manchester every year. The money they spend contributes about £9 billion annually to our economy, supporting over 100,000 jobs. The levy will be invested in infrastructure as well as keeping the streets clean and enhancing the public transport systems, including later running buses and trams. A research report from the Greater London Authority in 2017 estimated a 5% levy on accommodation could raise £239 million a year in the capital alone. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The marriage allowance under Macau's Social Security Fund will rise from the current MOP 2,220 to MOP 4,000 next year, marking an increase of more than 80%. If both newlyweds meet the eligibility requirements, they can each submit an application, meaning a couple may receive a total of MOP 8,000 in support. Some residents say their family originally asked them to get married this year because it's an auspicious year, but they consider postponing it because of the allowance. The wedding industry believes the policy could benefit the sector by encouraging more young people who might have wanted a simple registration to consider holding a proper ceremony. Macau lawmakers remind couples that to receive the marriage allowance, both partners must have contributed to the Social Security Fund for at least 9 months. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.